An AEW star was injured on last night's Collision. A Ring of Honor favorite is set to miss the rest of 2024. There's an update on two more potential WWE sign-ins, and new champions aplenty were crowned at TNA Slammiversary. Hello and welcome to the Solo Sunday News here at What Culture Wrestling. Myself, Andrew Pollard. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. I hope your weekend is going as well as it possibly can. And if it's not, I hope it turns around ASAP for you. Unfortunately, somebody who's not having a great weekend is AEW's Sky Blue. Now, last night's AEW Collision saw Sky Blue unfortunately suffer a very real, very genuine, very legitimate injury in her match against Hikaru Shida. This came where Shida dove to the outside onto Sky Blue from the ring apron, and whatever happened, Sky Blue, it was an awkward landing on her right leg. To be specific here, Tony Khan took to Twitter afterwards to confirm that it's an ankle injury that was suffered by Sky Blue and that she was being assessed by doctors. So there's no update as of now on the severity of this injury, how long Sky Blue is going to be out for. But yeah, there's some videos doing around on Twitter, well, on X, of Sky Blue being helped to the back by officials with no weight on that right ankle, on that right leg, on that right foot. So yeah, that's not great. You never like to see anybody get an injury. So hopefully for Sky Blue, it's nothing too serious and that she's back in action sooner rather than later. But yeah, best wishes to her on that. It was an ugly looking landing. It's just one of those things that happens in professional wrestling. Unfortunately, accidents do happen. As Jim Ross has long said, this it's not ballet. And it was, yeah, as soon as Shida landed on Sky Blue, you could tell, like, yes, something's not right. And the match was called off. Shida got the win, which is kind of irrelevant in this situation. But yeah, best wishes to Sky Blue. Hopefully it's a swift recovery for her. And as mentioned, hopefully it's nothing too serious. Now, in terms of serious injuries, Dalton Castle is set to miss the rest of 2024. Yeah, I am a huge mark for Dalton Castle, the party peacock, long-time fan of Dalton Castle. But yeah, Dalton Castle, he was injured on last week's Collision. Now, if you watch last week's Collision, it was Dalton Castle versus Roderick Strong, which on paper is a great matchup because two very, very, very good, talented wrestlers. But the ending was kind of weird, and that was down to a very real injury because that Collision was like often with Collision, it was taped ahead of time. And it was kind of, it obviously was edited in production, but it was like kind of weird where Dalton Castle gets hit by a knee from Roderick Strong, and the referee goes for the one, the two, and then kind of pauses a little bit and then counts to three. And that was because that wasn't supposed to be the end of the match, really. And this was a very real injury where Dalton Castle, this is according to Dave Meltzer, Dalton Castle was knocked out for real with that knee. And that was why the three was called there, where the ref wasn't really sure what to do. It was described as a mess. Again, this is from Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, described as a mess for those who watched it live, that it was a bit of a cluster, should we say. And thankfully, it was a case of, in terms of for AEW anyway, obviously not thankfully for Dalton Castle, but thankfully for AEW, it was a case of this was pre-taped, so they're able to do the best they can with this to not obviously show the injury. But yeah, Dalton Castle unfortunately suffered a KO, and Tony Khan has took to Twitter again to confirm that Dalton Castle is actually going to be missing the rest of the year due to this. I'm just speculating. You don't want to speculate about somebody's health, but I mean, whatever's happened there, maybe it's a concussion, or I don't know. But Dalton Castle is, not going to be back until to the start of next year at the earliest, by the sounds of it. Which is I will forever bang on the drum about Dalton Castle. There needs to be more done with that dude. Just entertain. He is the perfect combination of traits that you want in a professional wrestler, because, well, at least for me anyway, the dude is legit. He's legit tough, a legit background in amateur wrestling, but he's also entertaining as all hell. So he's got the believability of, like, yeah, this guy's a genuine badass. He can tie you up in knots if you want. But that whole persona, the party peacock, obviously doesn't have the boys room anymore because they were released. But just the presentation of Dalton Castle, the way he carries himself, is like, to me, he is that perfect mesh of professional wrestler, sports entertainer. He ticks all the boxes for me, and it's for me. It's like that. If I'm Tony Khan, that guy is on AEW TV as much as possible, and he's getting wins, and he's being utilized in a strong fashion. Instead, unfortunately, he's mainly relegated to Ring of Honor. Of course, a former Ring of Honor world champion during ROH's the before days, should we say? But yeah, Dalton Castle is. Yeah, it's a shame, man. It's a massive shame. But yeah, hopefully, again, much like Sky Blue, best wishes to Dalton Castle on a speedy, swift, full recovery. But yeah, a massive blow for me, because, like I said, I'm just a massive Dalton Castle mark. If you don't know, it's just like the guy's so talented. I'm banging on and repeating myself, so I will move on to our next story. Actually, we're not really supposed to be doing questions anymore, but one's come in about one great wrestler. So from one great wrestler to another great wrestler, Hector Garcia III's got in touch with a quick question about Bret Hart, and you're kind of appealing to me there. I can't let this slide. The question is, dropping peak Bret Hart into today's WWE or AEW, who will be the top 3 opponents you will want to see him face in each promotion? Right, so for me in WWE, I'm going Bret Hart versus CM Punk. I'm going Bret Hart versus Rey Mysterio, which is a match we never got to see, and a match that I know that Bret has said several times he would have loved to wrestle Rey. And I'm going to go Bret Hart versus Braun Breaker because it's such a great match that the Hart was in Bret Hart and Owen Hart versus the Steiners. I think it was a Coliseum video exclusive. It took ages for it to surface online. It's just like such a great match. So I'm going to go, Braun Breaker. Let's get that Steiner gene in there. As for AEW, obviously Bryan Danielson, MJF, and Will Ospreay. 3 pretty obvious answers there. But yeah, great question, Hector. I'm not really supposed to be answering them, but let this one slide in. Hey, it's Bret Hart. You appealed to me on a Sunday. Right, speaking of WWE, 2 more potential signings for WWE, to be specific, is our next story. Now, of course, WWE has they've got Julia inbound any day now to NXT. They've got Stephanie Vaquer has signed a contract, has already made a debut at those Mexico live events last weekend, and she's heading to NXT. And 2 other names rumored are Riho and Delta. Now, Riho was backstage at Clash of the Castle. Riho is in Progress, the current Progress Women's Champion, has done some great work, Tokyo Joshi Pro, Rev Pro, ICW, of course. The first time I saw her was, what is it really? No, yeah, 8 years ago? 8 years ago. Yeah, would have been 2016 for PCW, Preston Championship Wrestling. They did an event here in Wrexham and got to see her there. And then they did another event, I think it was 2 years later in Wrexham, and got to see her again. So I've seen Riho a few times because PCW did they ran shows in Wrexham for a little bit anyway. So yeah, Riho was backstage at Clash of the Castle and was invited there by WWE. This is a new story that was out a couple of weeks ago. So this isn't like any breaking news. But Fightful Select has a bit of an update on this, because obviously if you've been invited to a WWE event by WWE, then it's like, okay, so you signing with him? Have you signed with him? This Fightful Select report is that there was no WWE deal was discussed at Clash of the Castle with Rio, though she is open to signing with the company and already has a US visa in place as well, so that wouldn't be an issue. But while there was no deal discussed, Fightful adds that, she wouldn't have been invited to the event if there wasn't some interest there from WWE. So that's a bit of a maybe. Maybe something will happen there. She did have a very brief, I think it was just one match, kind of cup of coffee with NXT UK back in 2019, where there was a battle royal. She was one of the people in the battle royal. I think it was Kaylee Ray won that battle royal on the way to the throne in Toni Storm as the NXT UK Women's Champion. So Riho's a maybe. But Rio's just really talented, man. If you check out her stuff, she's really, really good. And I believe she's on like, 28, 29, 27, somewhere around there, which is, again, crazy to think that it was 8 years ago that I first saw her. Just really, really talented. And it's great to see that, no pun intended, the progress of her career over those years. Another person that the WWE has been linked with in recent weeks is Delta, Australian powerhouse standout. Now, Fightful were unable to confirm if Delta has signed with WWE, but she did impress WWE during they did some tryouts during Elimination Chamber that weekend while they're in Australia. She said to have impressed there. And from the people on the Australian independent scene that Fightful spoke to, they're under the impression that yes, Delta has signed with WWE. So Delta seems to be a done deal. Riho is a maybe, but yeah, they would be two great additions to the women's roster in terms of, I'd imagine, NXT for both of them, and see where we go from there. Just 2 very talented ladies, and yeah, Delta seems a done deal. And like I said, Riho is there is some interest there by all accounts. But yeah, best of luck to those 2. Right, let's wrap up with, hey man, I am that guy who will always bang on about TNA. TNA, the little engine that could. It's just been killing it for the last couple of years now. Don't be sleeping on TNA. And last night was TNA Slammiversary 2024, the 20th edition of Slammiversary. Became the highest selling TNA pay-per-view in 10 years within just 48 hours of tickets being released. Was a sellout up in Canada, up in Montreal. It was a very, very, very good show. Go and check that out. But yes, plenty of new champions were crowned at Slammiversary. The main story being Nick Nemeth, the former Dolph Ziggler, is now the new TNA World Champion. Yes, Going into Slammiversary, it was Moose as the TNA World Champion. I got to sit down and interview Moose. What was it, 2 weeks ago? You can find that elsewhere on the channel. It was Moose defending the world title in a 6-way elimination match featuring Nick Nemeth, Steve Macklin, Frank Kazarian, Joe Hendry, and Josh Alexander. And they pulled like a... To me, it was very much reminding me of ECW, of Taz, of Anarchy Rules 1999. Where at that event, if you're not familiar with that, Taz was the world champion. At that point in time, it was kind of common knowledge on the internet that Taz is leaving. He's the next one jumping ship to, in this case, WWE. It's kind of known that he was leaving. It was Taz versus Tanaka. And then before the match starts, Mike Awesome gets added to it because he's in the crowd. Was it? I'm sure it is. And I'm sure he's in his full gear in the crowd. Anyway, it's a 3-way. And it's like, all right, okay, what's going to happen? And then within like literally 2 minutes, Taz is eliminated. And it's like, oh, shoot, right, we're gonna get a new world champion, and the crowd go from like booing Taz and like you sold out to like he gets his round of applause, his flowers, the roster comes out on the stage. But that's kind of what TNA did last night, not in the get his flowers and crowd come out, the roster come out, but Moose was eliminated second in this match. So it's like, right, okay, already straight away like, oh, we're getting a new world champion here. And he was eliminated by Joe Hendry, of course, hitting the standing ovation. Now, Joe Hendry himself did not win this match, as mentioned. Nick Nemeth did. Joe Hendry was eliminated by Josh Alexander, the walking weapon, who turned heel. Yes, a nut shot. That's always one way to turn heel. Kick Joe Hendry square in the... If I can't say dick, then mute it out. I'm not calling Editor Ryan. I'm just saying now. Lots of dick. All the dick today. Dick Grayson. There, I can say it in that context, because then it's not... the point being, Josh Alexander... kicked Joe Hendry below the belt. We'll say that. So Joe Hendry was eliminated. It came down to Kaz, Frank Kazarian, and Nick Nemeth. Nick Nemeth getting the win to become the new TNA World Champion. Elsewhere, we have a new X Division champion, Speedball Mike Bailey. This was just such a fun match, man. If you're going to go track down one match from Slammiversary, this is it. It was always going to be great. Speedball Mike Bailey, Mustafa Ali, who's been on such a tear as the X Division champion and just killing it generally on the indies, anywhere he goes, whether that's Revolver, whether that's House of Glory, whether that's in the UK, whether that's in France. Mustafa Ali dropped the X Division title to Speedball Mike Bailey. We have new tag team champions. It's very familiar faces. ABC. It's Chris Bay, Ace Austin, who are now 3-time TNA tag team champions, defeating Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers. PCO defeated AJ Francis, the former top dollar, to become the new digital media champion. And PCO is engaged to Steph DeLander. He's a very lucky man. Elsewhere on the card, you had Jordan Grace retaining the Knockouts title against Ash by Elegance, the former Dana Brooke. Matt Hardy beat Dirty Dango, JDC as he is these days. Santana beat Jake Something, and slightly baffling to me, this one. Just mainly because, I'm a big fan of Alex Hammerstone, but Alexander Hammerstone returned to TNA on the pre-show and lost to Eric Young in 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay. We'll see where that goes from here anyway. But yeah, TNA Slammiversary, lots of title changes, a very fun event. Go and check it out. Go and track it down. And like I said, if you're only going to watch one match, there are some great matches here, but it's kind of got to be Speedball versus Mustafa Ali. A very, very fun match. And hopefully this has been a very fun news video. Probably not. I'll probably get loads of reviews in the comments. But yes, this has been the Solo Sunday News here at What Culture Wrestling. Myself, Andrew Pollard. There's another great video floating around somewhere magically on the screen. Click it now. It's going to be great. It's fantastic. But anyway, you have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.